This is Tracy Allen with Cascade Media and the Cascade Media Group. I'm the editor of the Kansas City Call newspaper. Hopefully, everyone is having a good and wonderful day today. Uh, I wanted to go ahead and just introduce our guest here. I am, as many of you know, not only a sports junkie, but also a sports editor, former sports writer across the country. So anything that's dealing with athletics, I do enjoy. But I want us just to interview and just introduce you to Arif Khatib, who's all the way from the West Coast, I believe is the California area. And Arif is an author, a filmmaker, and I would say a longtime sports junkie when it comes to witnessing some of the greatest athletes that have ever crossed this planet and so forth. So, Arif, again, I want to welcome you and thank you for this opportunity to talk with me and so forth. Tell me, where are you at right now, and what are you doing at this present moment as far as these last few days and weeks?
Tracy, thank you very much for having me on your show. I sincerely appreciate it. I'm in Oakland, California, and the past few weeks have been quite busy in preparation for our world premiere of a film coming up next week. And before that, the new book that came out about 120 days ago has really been keeping me busy across the nation, signing books and family reunions, combinations. Just been actually having a great time while spreading the word.
All right, you're talking about spreading the word. I know you have both a book and a film out, and I believe you have a book. It's called "Remember Their Sacrifice." You and co-author Peter Elman, I believe, wrote this book. Tell our audience a little bit about what it is, specifically for those who maybe are not as, I should say, well versed in the sports world. But tell us a little bit about why you decided to write this book and how you came up with the concept of it.
Before this, I want to mention there was another book came out 2 years ago called "In the Shadows of Obscurity." This
Okay.
new, this new
What's
one,
what is that? But what was that book about?
that was basically both of the books are and the film are an extension of my Hall of Fame, and that is to shine a light on the unheralded heroes of the past. This book, uh, recently published by Roman and Littlefield, is a book that it not only tells the stories of many of our great sports figures in history, it addresses their pain and on the road to greatness. I think it's a must read for those who want to know about the contributions of those before us and whose shoulders we stand on. And we also must stay focused, and I'm hoping this book and film will do that.
You talked about wanting to focus on those that were unheralded. We all, or at least some, if they haven't already, we know about the stories of the Jackie Robinsons, of individuals that a light was shined on them, whether it was in the early part of their careers, whether it was baseball, football, basketball. Is this book, and particularly this film, but let's talk first about the book, Remember Their Sacrifice. Does that touch on individuals that maybe many people have not heard of or not read up on or have maybe seen as far as video clips? And talk a little bit about how did you come up with those individuals? Was it individuals that you had watched personally yourself or had heard about and researched, or what?
Very good, very good question. I think I'm very fortunate, blessed, lucky, however you wish to frame it, and that I know 80% of the athletes in this book and in the film, and it was easy for me to ask these questions because they were personal friends. But to cover briefly what you suggested before, I would say that probably 50, 60% of the people in this book no one's ever heard of. If they have, they've forgotten them. We talk about the three women who played the Negro League. And people are really surprised to hear that. We talk about the first Native American or indigenous person to win a gold medal in the Olympics since Jim Thorpe in 1912. And what he had to endure, it's a really compelling story. We talk about Jesse Owens, his teammate. He overshadowed most of them, but he had a teammate named Archie Williams. Not a lot of people know who Archie was. Archie was born in Oakland, graduated UC Berkeley, had an engineer's degree in the 40s. And he went on to make large contributions to American society. And about a year ago, they named an all-white school out here after him. Drake High School is now Archie Williams High School.
Okay.
So all of this, I believe, has been not specifically for what we've done, we've helped, but to bring attention to these folks and shine a light on them. And that's really.
Yeah. What were some of the challenges as far as getting some of the information? Did you have to interview some of the family members, hopefully some that are still alive? And what I mean as far as grandchildren, children, great grands. How did you go about that process of getting that information for the book? And then, of course, going towards the film.
That's why I say I was lucky, blessed, except I went directly to the athletes. 6 of whom have passed on since I started the project and the film 10 years ago. Not the most recent book, but the film and the book. The ones that are alive are friends, all the way to Taiwan, 1968 Olympics. The athletes were interviewed by me, 70% for the film, all of them in front of the camera. For the book, 70% of them were interviewed face to face. So I could look them in the eye and tell them that I'm not a journalist. This is not going to be in the paper tomorrow. It is not going to be on television news tomorrow night. It is going to be in a book, and the contents are going to be there forever. The film is going to be there forever. So I want you to tell me something that you've never told anybody else. And so consequently, I have some information in that will almost bring tears to a person's eye, because according to them, okay, Arif, I never told anybody this. And I'll tell you this. Some would say, a couple would say, you're a friend, I'm going to give you all this, but don't copyright all of it in case I want to use it again. That's all I ask. Fine, that's fine, not a problem at all. So I was able, like with Billy Mills, I had 38 minutes of film, and I only used about 5 or 6 minutes of that. I saved the rest. If he's given me permission later, I still have enough for about a 30-minute documentary that people have never seen before and are not likely to ever see again. Although Billy Mills is very much alive right now, I stay in touch with all these persons on a regular basis. And so it's really was not, I didn't go to Google. I didn't go to any of the other search engines, because I believe, Tracy, if our story is going to be told accurately, we have to tell it. I don't rely upon what someone else has said. That may be their opinion. They may have gotten it from somewhere else. Maybe 10 people talked about it before it get to it, and then it still may not be factual. So I go directly to the source, and that stands this book and this film apart from most others. That's what I understand anyway.
Arif, when you spoke with each athlete, was there a continuous thread from the standpoint of what they experienced? Obviously, we can pretty much anticipate racism at its highest peak was probably experienced by each one of them. But what would you say would be the most continuous thread as you interviewed each one of them that you found out?
Some of them said that things have improved tremendously. Others say, I still am not free, that racism raises its head even against me from time to time. But, and most of them would say almost the same thing. But I'm prepared to defend myself now when I couldn't do it then. I was limited to what I could do, limited to what I could say. But today, I say, no, you don't go there. And that's the end of that. Like with the film, when we went to distribution for the film, they went through and found certain things in there because the film didn't work on for 10 years. Certain things in there that were not politically correct today, and they had to be corrected. The N word, for instance, we used the N word in the film because it was appropriate to be in there. They were called that. And so to authenticate it, I wanted what I'd said before, I wanted raw stuff. And have been born in Arkansas, I've heard it many times. So I wanted to hear it from them. How did it impact and affect you, and how did you overcome it? In fact, that's how I got come to the name of film, because they believed. I asked a couple of the athletes. I said, "Now, you're in a sports of individualism. You're running track, and you know you don't have you're on a team, but you have to run the race by yourself. And what made you feel or think that you could really do this to inspire others?" I believed I could.
Okay.
And so I said, well, you just named the film because they believed. And then I would ask other athletes, and they pretty much all said the same thing. And some would say, I wanted my legacy to be that I fought racism, I broke down racist barriers, and I won. And I won because I believed in what I was doing was the right thing to do. So that belief came in many times. And I now use in most all of my presentations to young people, particularly, believe that you can do it, and you can.
And because they believe, which is obviously the film,
Yeah.
and they did what they were able to do, it's now important for us to remember their sacrifice. You mentioned about Billy Mills. Who are some of the other ones? And I don't want you to mention all of them because I want our listeners and our watchers to not only go watch the film but also purchase your book and so forth. Who were a couple of the athletes that you specifically were interested? And I think our audience and those that go watch the film as well as read the book, that they would enjoy hearing their story. Just a couple of them you might want to mention.
There are some athletes in there that were just fun to be with and talk to because they were friends. And they were able to share things with me. One in particular was Mamie Peanut Johnson.
Yeah.
Mamie was the pitcher in the Negro Leagues, played in Indianapolis with the Indianapolis Clowns, and became a very good and personal friend. It was just so much fun to be with her because we were able to share things that you normally wouldn't share when you're interviewing somebody. Tell me about this, Mamie. What about this, Mamie? And I said, how did you get the nickname Mamie? You know, so she would say things like, when she was on the road with these men on the bus, and so she says, Satchel Paige was sweet on me.
Okay.
So I told him to teach me how to throw the curve. So here was a situation of this person bargaining with arguably probably the best pitcher ever. If he wanted to be with her, he's going to have to teach her how to throw the curve. And so that led to how she got her name, the Peanut, because she said she was on the mound and ready to pitch, and some guys in the dugout was hollering, "What makes you think you can pitch? Well, you know, bigger than a peanut." She said she looked over to the dugout to see which one it was, and when he came up, she used Satchel's curve and struck him out on 3 pitches.
Okay, okay. So she got her message across and so forth. Yeah.
And she said, from then on, I had no problems, and she was just a delightful person. When I inducted her into the Hall of Fame I believe it was in Las Vegas, there was a production crew there doing her life story, and I said they were as excited about it as I was because Mamie, she was forced. She was a great baseball player. She was forced to play in the Negro League because a white girls team back in Pennsylvania at that time would not allow her to play with them. So she went and said she tried for the Negro League and made the team. And that's basically how she came in. And Connie Stone before her was the second baseman. She was the first. And so each of these persons had their own stories, and they were committed, and they won because they believed.
One of the things you mentioned about the Afro Sports Hall of Fame, and I know you're a part of that in a lot of ways. If an individual was saying wanting to take a vacation trip or just a little short trip, where's the Afro Sports Hall of Fame? And can you talk a little bit just briefly about that and how they can learn about maybe part of the history of the African American culture and community that they've never seen, not just only for African Americans, but for people of other races and nationalities.
First of all, you'd be surprised at how many white people are interested in our subject. To some extent, more than we are. When I go on a book signing tour, it is not uncommon for white people to buy two books at a time, and our folks may not even show up. So these stories need to be read more, need to be talked about more in our community because we have athletes who don't know whose shoulders they're standing on. We have athletes who never heard of some of the people that's in this book and don't know the sacrifice that they had to make on the road to greatness and how they made it. So this book needs to be read more about my people and your people and our people. And I'm saddened to some extent why that isn't happening. But I'm glad that white folks are really reading it, buying it, because they need it for a different reason more than we do, but they need it. Now, in terms of the museum is virtual because there was 5 cities prepared to host our museum before the pandemic, just before the pandemic, in fact, up about 2014 or 15, where cities ran out of money all across them, especially in our urban areas. So it was postponed, pushed back, pushed back, pushed back. Ironically, right now I'm speaking with another city out here in California. They're building a new building for the NFL chapter in San Mateo, California, and I'm speaking to them about including a wing there to include our Hall of Fame, so people can indeed come and see that. But
You mentioned that it's on virtual though, correct? So how
yeah,
how will listeners and watchers be able? What website? Where can they go to just even see it on a virtual standpoint?
they I'll tell you what they can do right now. You can go to becausetheybelieve.com and see the trailer of the film.
Right.
There's a 5-minute trailer there. It gives them an idea of what the film is about. And then multi-ethnic sports hall of fame.com will give them a more overview of who's been inducted into the Hall of Fame, their photos, I had 2 ceremonies in Ethiopia, 2 in Kenya, 1 in Tanzania, 5 in New York, 6 in Seattle, 2 in Palm Springs, 3 in Los Angeles, 7 in Little Rock, probably 18 or 19 in the Bay Area. So I've moved it around the country because it's a nonprofit. And it is a serious nonprofit. We want to use these funds for after school youth intervention program to first of all get students through high school and then to make sure that they stay out of trouble while they're going through it. So
Right.
these funds are used for that, and therefore we want to minimize the expenses. So I go by myself, and maybe one other person sometime will go with me for bookkeeping or whatever to the community. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, I don't have to fly them here. Provide ground transportation, hotel. That to me, to some extent, is money wasted. Can be used in a better way. So go to their community, and the people in that community know who those athletes are. Many of them, believe it or not, live among them every day and never see them.
Right.
You never get an opportunity to see them. It's not because of the athlete. We just maybe not aggressive enough to want to go and do that. Because the athletes, I find, especially the ones we induct, because they're older athletes, they've been around for a while, and they're retired a long time. They want people to know who they are and the contributions they made, because press has left them behind now. They want to know, what have you done for me lately? It's the
Right.
LeBron James and the others. Those are the folks that press seek because it sells. But these athletes have been forgotten pretty much. And when I induct them, almost every single time at a ceremony, one of them become emotional because they say, Arif, man, how can I thank you enough? I thought people forgotten I was forgotten about me. And I'm just happy that you're doing this. This really makes it for me. Like Dusty Baker, for instance. Dusty Baker, when he took me through his house, I was interviewing him for the film, and he's taking me through his house, and he has a trophy case up in there. It's probably the biggest up people's house. Every trophy you can imagine. And he said, he said, follow me over here. I want to show you my favorite. He goes other than a lock and key and pulled out the trophy that I gave him and said, this is my favorite because it was given to me by my people. That is important to me, and it should be significant to every person of color, because it shows you that our athletes care about us. Do we care about them?
Right.
Not the current athletes, but the athletes who fought the war, who fought the big battle, who had every single day had racism thrown in their faces. One of the persons told me just left trying out for the Olympics and Olympic trials in Texas. An experience she had, she was unbelievable in the 60s. When we watch the Olympics now, we don't know that they went through that. So we have to tell the story. They went through it for you today.
Arif, one of the things I want to say is thank you for joining me today on Cascade Sports, and of course, the Kansas City Business Association sponsors this as well. Just real briefly, because we're almost out of time, can you tell our listeners and our audience how they can purchase Remember Their Sacrifice by both you and Peter Elman, and then when you anticipate, just real briefly, when the film will be out for those to go see it?
The book, Remember Their Sacrifice, is available everywhere. Barnes and Noble, Google, publisher Rowman and Littlefield, Amazon, a couple of outlets in the UK. It's available everywhere.
Okay.
The film will have its world premiere next weekend, 25, 26, 27, in Marin County, California, which is the fifth wealthiest in the nation. That gives you an idea. Now, you don't have a whole bunch of black folks over there. They don't have a lot, but they're showing the film in theater style for the first time. After that, you'll have to view it on television, because I'm not sure, and I'm not sure of anything, but I've been around for a while. I'm not sure if the theaters are going to be interested in showing something that doesn't have a lot of violence and sex in it, because it doesn't sell. It's an educational documentary. So there may be some challenges for them seeing it in their theater, but they can ask for it, and then we see that it's there. Wait for it for television. And like I said earlier, because they believe right now, and see the trailer that's going to be on next week. And I can't I can't I can't say enough about the fact that we all must stay focused. We all have a role to play today. Let's play that role because sports has a way of creating a different kind of environment and atmosphere. It is acceptable by the general population of all races. Let's take advantage of that and get where we want to go.
All right. Well, Arif Khatib, thank you so much for our audience. Thank you for joining us. I want to encourage you. I want to challenge you. Go get this book. Remember their sacrifice. And then go on becausetheybelieve.com to see the trailer of the film that is going to be out. For those of you that have younger children that are just now getting started in sports, or even yourself, maybe a former athlete, I want to challenge you, encourage you to go back and to learn about these stories, learn about what people have done to make a pathway and a way for you. And for those of you that know individuals that are outside your group or outside your influence, encourage them and challenge them as well to be a part of just what I believe is this journey to learn more about our history and what made people the way that they were as far as their successes as athletes. Again, this is Tracy Allen. I'm editor of the Kansas City Call newspaper. And like I said today, I welcomed Arif Khatib with us on Cascade Sports, sponsored by the Kansas City Business Association. Again, we want to thank you, Arif, for taking the time to talk with us. And again, audience, I challenge you, go purchase this book, go online, watch that trailer. When that film does come into your community, go watch it because being from Kansas City, learning a lot about the Negro Leagues and the sacrifices that many of them made, you would be surprised that some of those very same sacrifices that they made, that many of our young people and even our young athletes are making are experiencing some of the same things today. Yes, 2023 that they were experiencing 60, 70, and 80 years ago. So again, Arif, thank you for joining us. And thank you, audience. And we look forward to next time. And so all I can say is peace. And Arif, if you have anything else you'd like to share?
I have one last thing that since you're in Kansas City, I will be speaking at the Fort Scott Community College on October 5. Anyone in that area, I'd love to see you.
Okay. I definitely will. And hopefully not only see me, but hopefully see some people in the surrounding the Kansas City metropolitan area. Those of you that are in Lawrence that knew anything about Billy Mills, hopefully we will be able to see some of you as well. So again, thank you, Arif, for taking the time. Again, this is Tracy Allen, editor of the Kansas City Call newspaper as with Cascade Sports. And until we see you guys again, thanks a lot.
This program is brought to you by the City of Fountains Coaches Association.